Welcome everyone to another episode of Cup of Nurses. Before we dive into the episode, a little word from our sponsors, which is ourselves. A little shameless plug. Make sure you check out cupofnurses.com. It's our website. We have all our show notes there. Check out wearefrontlinewarriors.com. We have some cool content on there as well. Both also have shops. And thank you everybody that listens to us on all the platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Shout out to 1,000 subs plus on YouTube. Good milestone. I'm going to keep bringing it up till we hit 10K. So, we got a few more days of this, I believe.
Let's keep going with it. And don't forget, any information about us, check out the link, click on the episode. If you're on YouTube, check out the description below. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about day shift expectations versus reality. We have 4 years of experience on nights. Now we have about 3 months on day shift, and I think we have enough authority to speak some facts. We've realized a lot of differences. I think we adjusted very well to our first day shift contract. A lot of nurses told us, wow, I'm surprised you guys never worked day shift before. So it's fun, right?
Yeah, the transition has been nice, has been smooth, going from nights to days. I didn't really have any kind of withdrawals, or you could say I kind of flipped right back to day shift. It wasn't that big of a deal. We went to bed early, woke up early instead of our usual routine where we stay up late and wake up more later towards the morning. So transition was smooth. A lot of times people would say that there's a really hard transition. I haven't had any issues.
My body loved me. But one of those things, the reality is, as a day shift nurse, your shift starts at 5 a.m. So you're going to be waking up super early. You might have to pack your lunch. You might have to get ready, do your makeup if you're a chick, or whatever your morning routine is, meditation. And you got to beat the traffic. So you got to be there at 6:45, but ideally you're waking up at 4:50 if you're driving far.
Yeah, especially if you got to be there super early like that and you got a long drive. If you're a travel nurse, sometimes, travel nurses sacrifice the distance, so they are willing to drive farther and have a nicer place.
We drove 30 miles
Right,
every day, or
right.
60 total.
And at least you carpooled. So that's a benefit. You can maybe find somebody that carpools or get a travel nursing buddy and then make the best out of it. But yeah, that was probably the biggest thing, is waking up a lot earlier than you think. Because in theory, when you're working nights, you think, okay, day shift starts at 7:30. They probably wake up at 6 earliest, right? A lot of people wake up at 5:30, 5 o'clock just to make it to work at 7:30. So we really got the taste of that perspective, where we're going to need to leave work a lot sooner than we think.
Exactly. And ultimately, our body loves us a lot more. And this is the biggest pro, is just feeling a little bit human. I'm not going to stress that enough. I feel regular.
Yeah.
Even though we go out, maybe party during the weekend and
we go to
sleep, we could handle that. But staying up for 3 days, and sometimes you don't have the best shifts as a night shift nurse, and you're doing 2 on, 1 off, back on, it drains you. And I even seen better results in our podcasting or performance, meaning we're more in tune with our business because we have a consistent schedule. That's such a perk of day shift. Outside of life, I'm actually doing things regularly.
That's the beauty of it. You're actually on the actual circadian rhythm that you're supposed to be at. Because on night shift, first of all, you're stressing your body and not being in the most homeostasis state by being awake during the day and asleep at night. You're flipping it. Plus, you're adding stress from work, environmental pressures, coworkers, people dying on you sometimes, and that just really takes a toll. And working nights, it's almost double that, because you have your natural stressors of your body in stress because you're not supposed to be awake at this time, and now you're adding these mental stress that you're putting on yourself and your body from these outside pressures.
Yes.
And it's over long periods of time, it's very detrimental to the body. You see those night shift nurses that have been doing night shift for a long time, and they tend to look older than somebody that's trying to do day shift.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all nurses are like that, but some of them think they can handle night shift, but they're really not.
And sometimes your doctor might tell you you might have to switch because of that. There was a nurse when I worked at Santa Monica that had hypertension. His doctor told him to transition. His points went down 15 milligrams of mercury. He lost weight. He was feeling better. Sometimes the body just wears off, you're doing it for perks for family and stuff, but sometimes days is the way to go.
Yeah, it's definitely that mind-body connection, where it's not just a one-style approach where mind over matter. You have to listen to your body sometimes, because it tells you things. It tells you how to achieve your full potential. in a state, right? Not only mentally, it's also physically. So
Yeah.
listen to what your body is saying. If it's like it goes with sitting for long periods of time. If you sit for long periods of time, your back's gonna hurt, your hamstrings are gonna tense up, and you're gonna have the urge to stand up. So don't ignore the urge to stand up. Stand up. Same way with work. If your body is always fatigued, you're always stressed out, you're always tired, change up your shift. Do a day shift position. Maybe you have to do the hospital, but still, just have yourself in your best favor.
Exactly. But shout out to all the night shift nurses listening. We're not putting you guys down.
No respect. We love you guys. Night shift nurses have the best personalities.
Yes, we understand that there's a freaking hustle to make some damn money. You're trying to pay off your debt. You're young, you're hustling. Like, keep doing that. And plus, it's nice. It's fun.
Yeah.
People understand. Another thing about day shift expectation is it's going to be very hands-on. So unlike nights, there's going to be a lot of people. You're going to be met with a lot of personalities, whether it's dietary, PT, OT. You might be doing a lot more IVs, placing Foleys, going down to procedures. It's very, very hands-on.
I feel like now that I look back at it, I think it's equally hands-on because during day shift you have more support, so you could delegate things, you get help with things, and nights you don't really always have that support, so you're doing everything yourself for the most part. So I think when it goes to hands-on stuff and patient care, I think it's 50-50, man.
Yeah,
Low key.
the only aspect that's different is the procedures. So if you're somebody that likes to see an assistant thoracentesis and going down to CTs, MRIs, that hands-on is usually only on a day shift. On nights, you're going to be only doing it during emergencies, like maybe your patient has a PE, or if you're in ER, then it's already frequent no matter what.
But then you have the flip side where you're doing the wound dressing changes and you're also doing the baths and usually the line changes.
Yeah, that's some different hands-on,
Yeah.
especially in the ICU. So you bring up a very good point.
So that's what I'm saying. I think it's when we think about it, I think they made it fairly equal over the years, definitely.
Yeah, and that's the reality. So a lot of night shift dilemma and drama goes into it, like, oh, night shift doesn't do as much and all that. But equally, you guys are doing different roles, especially in the ICU. You're going down for procedures, but I'm assessing wounds and doing the wound care on nights, and vice versa.
Another difference is definitely the noise. They're both noisy environments, but nights is noisy in the sense where I feel like you hear more monitors. During days, there's more people talking and walking around, people are moving, and there's more environmental noise compared to monitors. The environmental noise usually overlaps the monitors, but of course you still have your red alarm where that's the loudest thing in the unit. But definitely noise-wise, I feel like alarms are definitely go off more and for longer period of times on nights compared to days, because days that the sound of the alarms kind of hides around the commotion going on in the unit.
The noisiness is just the amount of people that are always circulating. The amount of things you have to remember sometimes, like whether did your patient get a tray? Oh, where's my patient? They're with PTOT. Another doctor came in for a nurse, so now you want to have to remember what that doctor is saying, or he wants to help you with something. There's that noise. They have to learn how to maneuver that fast pace as a day shift nurse. That's going to be your expectation of you. And if you're somebody that is not comfortable with that, you're a little bit more reserved as a person, you're not comfortable with seeing constant doctors and all that, because that's a difference. You're not reading notes as much. You're just going into it and figuring out what the doctor is doing it in real time.
Yeah. And there's definitely a difference in the nursing support, I would say, too. Just because days is very task heavy, but you have more support. You usually have a break nurse and like a relief nurse that helps you with things. Like there's usually they call it mid shift sometimes that comes in.
Yeah.
So you're down to more tasks, but then you also have more support. That goes with more physician support as well. You have more questions to ask. And compared to nights, where you're only calling physician in an emergency situation, if you don't have a physician that's on your unit, right? Then you kind of have to figure out what to do just with your nursing knowledge and your unit. Compared to on days where you just call somebody real quick, they usually call back at a timely manner and then just get it figured out and dealt with right away.
Yeah, and I like the support that also comes from different team members of the hospital, where physical therapy or OT might be helping you with something, or wound care comes in so we can knock out the wounds. There's different physicians that can maybe even help you with things. Sometimes I had a physician that checked up on my telemonitor and asked me if everything is okay. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I love that culture in that hospital that we experienced. And again, we might be biased because we've worked at California, but where we worked, we had, just like you said, mid shift, a lot more resources. People came in. There was always a break nurse. You got taken care of. And I think, again, that's the standard that should be implemented across the board.
Yeah, and we also had residents, which was neat on days. That was cool. You got the whole resident team come and do rounds, checking up on your patients. There's like 3 or 4 of them, and they gather around each room one by one, discuss topics, and you get a lot of knowledge. You get knowledge on days, learning from the physicians and the residents.
And that goes perfectly into like the plan of care, right? Which is you are always involved. As a night shift nurse, you're understanding what's happening through notes and building your story. As a day shift nurse, you're in the room constantly and you have to know all the information that the night shift nurse gave you, read briefly what's happening, and then kind of know your kind of shift expectation, what you need to do. And then if you have to figure out what every single physician probably wants, needs, or maybe what you should ask. If the patient is still hypertensive, make sure when you see the cardiologist, let's increase maybe metoprolol or whatever it is, or let's add something PRN if his blood pressure is over 160 for the neuro patients. So be very, as a day shift nurse, you have to be very aware of the whole entire holistic care, what's happening, what every single consult role is. So definitely as a new grad, as a new nurse, that might be very overwhelming. And I think that's why I became such a great nurse, because I took time to work night shift. I had enough time to read notes and figure things out, because that you're acting as a resource to day shift. You're hinting all these awesome things that maybe they should do this, or why isn't this being done? And that's the awesome role that you guys have in this perfect environment. There's no drama. Both roles are so equally important, because you're being the investigator and detective on night shift.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look back at all the things that you do on days and all the things that you do on nights, and your goals of care, you could say for days a little bit different than on nights. On days, it's more of a time where you're changing things up. You're trying to elicit a response to make sure these goals are being hit. Compared to nights, you're taking action, but you're taking action in a way in which you're maintaining homeostasis, you could say.
Yeah.
Both require critical thinking and quick judgment, but during the day, you're testing, and then at night, you're kind of reviewing the results.
Yeah.
And it's like a beautiful environment of doing things during the day and then addressing certain problems at night. Like you said, you could look into the notes, you can see what's been done, what's been working, what hasn't been working, and you're kind of almost like the scientist in the room. You're observing if the changes that they made during the day are also showing good results at night.
I like you bring that up, being the scientist, because you really are. And I think this is what makes the nursing role so empowered, because we could take a simple fact like ambulation. We have to ambulate the patient 3 times a day around the unit, especially in an orthopedic situation. If the pain meds are given scheduled before and he still has a lot of pain, let's assess the pain medication frequency. So you're being an assessor in that more than even the physician. You're basically being the physician at that point, because then you're making the phone call and he's trusting your judgment. Yeah. And that could be simple as even with intubation and doing the sedation vacation and extubation. It's an awesome process, and you're involved so much more in the plan of care, even on days, and just being aware of it and communicating with so much people.
Yeah, charting is also a little bit different, but either way, it sucks. I don't enjoy charting on days any more than I enjoyed it at night. And it's always the same thing where you're trying to squeeze in some time to chart. It's always like that. On days and nights, you're always running out of time to chart, because it's always the thing that you do last, because patient care and patient health is the most important. So you're always dragging behind on charting. The main reason why nurses have overtime is because of charting.
Yeah,
that's in every hospital we literally worked in.
Especially when I was a med-surg nurse, I always got out so much later. When I was it was always like after 8 a.m. because you have to chart on 6 patients, especially when I wasn't aware of duplicating some things. But I want to speak about that because we don't duplicate charting, right, nurses?
Yeah.
So if you're somebody that enjoys immersing yourself in the charts, night shifts for you. Day shift, you're developing the plan of care and you're just giving the report, and that's your notes. And then technically when you're reading the notes, that's going to reference, because you have the report and the charting that's already given to you live, which is cool. And you might be charting sometimes in random places, like there's an EDG procedure, your patient went down somewhere, so you're like in a room isolated, or you're just charting and trying to find some quiet space, especially in organized chaos. Yeah. So you're not going to get a peace of mind when you're charting, especially as a day shift nurse.
Yeah. Another interesting thing, difference and discrepancy between days and nights is definitely the food, the nutrition aspect of it. First of all, night shift nurses snack a lot more, I've noticed, than day shift nurses. I feel like day shift nurses are able to get a full meal in.
They got the best potlucks, by the way.
Oh, for sure, 100% they do. But days it seems like they're able to get more of their meal in and they eat more of a filling and hearty meal compared to nights where they're more prone to snacking, eat a little bit here, a little bit there. And that's just because you have to, throughout the night, it's more of like incremental things you do every so often compared to days where you could, I feel like, cluster care sometimes a little bit better depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
But always, for sure, snacking. Like night shift snacks, I want to say 80% more than day shift, 100%.
Yeah, and I also love that you have the cafeteria available. Not all hospitals have a 24-hour cafeteria, so I love the privilege of taking a break and going downstairs and getting something, because sometimes you don't have time to make a lunch. As a night shift nurse, especially in those kind of hospitals, you have no choice. If you forget your lunch, you're screwed. You're doing some Snickers, a Kit Kat, and like some potato chips from the vending machine. Or you're going to do some Uber Eats nowadays, which is pretty clutch.
Yeah, but cafeteria food was something that I never thought I would actually enjoy. But sometimes I was like, for sure, worst case scenario, if I don't pack enough food or I don't cook enough, I could just go down to the cafeteria. And at nights, you're kind of, like Matt said, you're kind of screwed. If you don't pack enough, if you don't bring in enough food, guess what? You go in the vending machine because you're starving and you're not trying to fall asleep. And if some people, by eating, it prevents them from falling asleep because it makes them focus on something and do something.
Yeah, and the PO supplementation, as a day shift nurse, you always have to hide it. Sometimes you can't even bring it on the unit. So those are one of those things that I hated, where I always loved my beaker at my little workstation wherever I worked. No one really cared about it. I was being, clean and all that. I had done all that. But when you go on days, everything is cleared. And there's managers that'll point things out, especially infectious disease. So if you're somebody that's like a sipper, enjoys fluids all the time, night shift sucks for you because things are always away from you. Yeah. And that's when you forget to drink water and you're dehydrated and
you pass out.
You get a migraine, you got to take ibuprofen and yada.
And now we'll go into a hot topic of the personalities and our friendships on the varying shifts. So for sure, day shift I feel like is definitely more catty, more chatty. They definitely like to talk more. And I feel like day shift talks about everything and anything, and I feel like night shift talks about other people. You have the same opinion, you think?
Very good point, because day shift nurses are a little bit more energetic and talkative, so they're just always chatting about the events in their day and like the doctors and all that, right? That's what's happening. And yeah, night shift, there's just less interaction, so it's like storytelling and catching up and family a little bit. I mean, we're busy too. We talk about work, but it's a little bit on a slower pace when it comes to communication.
Yeah, both shifts definitely talk shit. 100%. That's everywhere you go.
It's a nursing thing, man. We like to talk some good dark humor.
Yeah, it's a female-dominant profession. We didn't expect it not to be like this.
Sometimes we like to talk a little bit tea, laugh around. There's some good stories in nursing. Like, everything is good in moderation. That's what I feel like. Yeah,
like I've never had a really bad experience at work. There was some times I was frustrated or got in trouble for some things that were probably
blown out, by the way.
They're blown out of proportion. But I don't hate it. I don't hate the person. I don't hate the fact that it happened. It's just it happened and it is what it is. And life moves on. And I still enjoy it every day at work.
Yeah, and night shift nurses sometimes are a little bit more reserved and quiet. And then they open up on nights, which is cool. So depending on the type of people you might like, then you could kind of pick what shift you like working on. But we're both talkative and we're very active and all that, so we kind of fit right into days. We pick up a conversation with everybody, and that's the cool thing.
Yeah. When it goes to partying and like outside the work environment, shout out to night shift for sure. I think night shift parties harder and better than day shift. Like if you want to party, you should party with the night shift crew.
Per nurses, per capita of nurses of those that you came across, right?
Correct.
I would concur on that one.
Yeah, 100%. Night shift has some savage ass nurses, and it's always there's a lot of humor on nights. I feel like there's definitely more humor on nights and days, and nights is for sure dark humor. Days is more of like being more of the silly, flirty kind of thing, and then like nights is like dark humor.
Yeah.
And it's like dark humor with like a little bit of flirting involved, and it's just a different dynamic, and it's fun on both ends.
Yeah, and ultimately both shifts, including days, everybody has time to talk and become friendly, and you can meet new friends if that's what you're striving for. So there's no better or.
Yeah. Let's try and get rid of this toxic nursing culture that we talk so much about and we hear about, that it seems to be not as addressed as much as it was back in the day. I feel like nurse toxicity was addressed a lot more last year than it is now.
Yeah,
We should bring it back.
COVID really spiked it up, which is great.
Yeah, we have to all work together. Like, put all your baggage aside, leave all that shit in the background. Like, you're coming to the hospital, you're with the intent of helping people. Let's not put our personalities and our egos in the middle of that.
Yeah, and if you have a story for us on how we could maybe switch that work culture, if you need some ideas from us, join the Couple Nurses group. Join it, comment on it there, and there's gonna be a community that could potentially help and interact with that.
Yeah, leave a voice memo, leave a recording, drop us a recording DM or something. Just
Video, we would love
whatever.
that.
Yeah, we'll post to talk about it.
Because that's the key. Is just nursing is such a tough role. What we just described here. Look how much roles you're taking as a nurse, and the last thing you need is just nurses fighting amongst nurses.
And the crazy thing is, how many nurses in their late 20s, early 30s are thinking about leaving bedside? There's a lot of nurses that are pursuing other passions and other goals because nursing is that stressful, or they may have just realized that, hey, this isn't what they want to do for the rest of their life, which is 100% okay. Like, we eventually want to leave bedside, but we still enjoy doing it, so that's why we do it. And it's okay to leave. If you want to leave, just leave the bedside. It's okay to pursue other passions and do other things. It's not something you have to do forever. But it just shows you how stressful and toxic certain cultures could be in certain environments, that people in the age of mid-20s to early 30s are leaving bedside.
Yeah.
Or thinking about leaving it just because of the culture.
And if you're somebody that's experiencing that and you've tried and you're telling yourself there's no way to change it, maybe you want to take a break from staff and you want to be adventurous and try travel nursing, you could also do that. And you're going to be able to understand different cultures and understand what we're talking about, because you can't read a book about culture and leadership and understanding. You have to experience it. And that's what nursing is. And that's why you're a beginner nurse. And that's why it takes levels to paint the picture and kind of say what we say,
Yeah. If you're one of those nurses that are thinking about leaving bedside, I would 100% recommend to do at least one travel nursing contract before you leave bedside. Because not only is it going to be a whole different nursing experience, it's going to foster such an environment of just growth and optimal growth, because you're going to be in a new environment, you're going to have new housing, a new place, new friends, new experiences, and new people. And that's going to benefit you either way, not only in a nursing perspective, but in like the real life reality perspective, because it's going to actually test yourself. And if you could get through a travel nursing contract by yourself, the world's your oyster. You could probably get through anything in the world, because you're still saving lives in a completely different environment with a bunch of strangers, and you're also putting yourself in a completely different environment outside of work. So everything is new and everything is changed.
I think
every aspect.
I think you're a total badass when you travel nurse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So definitely, if you're interested, let us know about that. We always have the best availability when it comes to recruiters.
And it pays well too.
So if you guys like this episode about day shift, we give you guys the expectations and realities of the let me slow down here because this is going to sound bad. So let me redo this live. Sorry guys for that one. On this episode, we talked about day shift expectations and reality. The reality is it's always fast paced. You're going to be a lot more hands-on. Both shifts are equal when it comes to friendships. You're going to be more of a caretaker when it comes to the plan of care when it comes to day shift. And overall, both are equally valuable. If you want to experience both, you're going to be a more well-rounded nurse.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to try both. Like, ask your manager, hey, can I get a week on days? I'm getting burnt out on nights. Can I maybe try it out and maybe you can find a position? Or like, it's okay to leave your unit or leave your hospital or current work environment to pursue better things or just better shifts. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you guys. Peace.
Bye-bye.